Big win for the San Francisco 49ers in week 9, 34-24 victory at the New York Giants. But at the same time, a big loss. The fear is Mykel Williams, torn ACL. What's that mean for the 49ers going forward as we approach the trade deadline? On today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Coach Crocky. Thanks, everybody, for making this your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love our everydayers. Thanks for hanging with us post-game on this Rapid React episode, talking 49ers, Giants. Now have some updates from the 49ers post-game about the health of Mykel Williams and a number of topics here in a big win for the 49ers that just keep rolling despite all the injuries. Croc, a 6-3 record now for the San Francisco 49ers after 9 weeks of the NFL season. Today's episode, by the way, of Locked On 49ers brought to you by FanDuel. And right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. Croc, 6-3. I think there's a lot to take away from this game. I think there's a lot of game balls to give out in a win like this. But I think we got to start with the biggest news, which is the loss, it looks like, of Mykel Williams. And to quote Kyle Shanahan post-game on the Mykel Williams injury, and man, he was on the ground, and you knew it was not good. He's holding his knee. He's banging himself in the helmet. You knew he was in pain, and he kind of knew that it was something really bad. And the fear right now is that it is a torn ACL, but Kyle Shanahan after the game did say that, quote, Mykel Williams he's just down. I told him you never know until the MRI tomorrow. Hopefully it's not the worst, but if it is, it sucks for this year, but you'll be back next year and it won't affect you at all. So that was the message from Kyle Shanahan to Mykel Williams, who was, you could see why he would be down and pretty upset about a potential torn ACL. We'll get the confirmation on Monday, but that's what they think right now.
You know, it's tough, and it's unfortunate to have to start this podcast with that news. You know, a guy that's young, and you're looking for positives, just with the development of him. And before he could get to that, before you can get to, hey, man, start off, he didn't really have a pass rush moves. And, man, I'm excited about how he finished, and he had 3 sacks down the stretch. And, you can never get to that. It's just a lot to be desired as a pass rusher. Did some positive things as a run defender. Not sure exactly what you're getting from your 11th overall pick. Towards ACL, will miss the remainder of the season, may not come back 100% himself next year when you would like to see that big jump. And I think that's kind of been the 49ers season this year, where, you win a game, you improve to 6-3, and we're having to start with negative, just a negative discussion about something that happened. That's tough.
And the Niners couldn't get out. It was one of our last keys to victory. We talked about it a couple times last week about that MetLife field, and you hope the 49ers could get out of there and not have any injuries. It's one of the worst fields that claims the most bodies in the NFL in New York, and it claimed another one. And it looks like it's going to be a torn ACL. Will be confirmed tomorrow. Interesting comment here. What do you think the overall impact is of Mykel Williams? You talked about how his pass rush, and by the way, I think in this game he had the most pressures since week 3 on the season. So the 49ers were surprisingly able to get after it a little bit. I want to highlight some other players, a couple of new players for the 49ers, and showing up the 49ers defensive line as well. But Kenny has something to say here in the chat. That's interesting. He says, can I be honest? The injury for Mykel sucks for his development. But for the team, I just don't think it's a big deal. He hasn't been very good relative to the league and not grading on a rookie curve. What do you think about that, Croc? How much of a loss is it with the rookie Mykel Williams not being around potentially the rest of the year?
Well, I think that the draft pick wasn't just for this season. So, I mean, what did we say the scouting report was on him coming in? Like, hey, he's going to have to improve as a pass rusher. I don't think that meant that there wasn't any impact, with having him out there. So I think it is a loss. I think it's a big loss, but more so for what you're projecting to the future. That's what that's about. How many first round picks? I mean, you got the Nick Bosa's of the world, but how many of them come into the NFL and they are 100% of everything that you want them to be? So, it was always going to be kind of steps to the development of Mykel Williams in becoming what you hoped he'd be 2-3 years from now.
Yeah, it is rough for the development. I think he came in right away. Like, he played to his scouting report. You knew
Right.
there wasn't going to be a huge bag as a pass rusher, but he was going to be able to set the edge and help against the run. He's one of the reasons why the 49ers were immediately much better against the run than they were last year. And so he was doing that job. And I think he was going to make a lot of strides as a player, as a pass rusher. And, he's got all the skills to be an even better player. And it does take defensive ends a while in the NFL. It's rare the defensive end comes in and is just fully formed. Bosa is a rarity that we saw from him his rookie year. And actually looking at the numbers, Mykel Williams was still one of the top defensive linemen just as far as total pressures on the season. I think Abdul Carter is way out there at number one and like lapping the field. And then second or third was Mykel Williams. And a lot of that was because he was counted on to start and has played a lot of snaps for the 49ers. But yeah, I mean, as far as the sack department goes, I don't think you're going to feel Mykel Williams unless they start to really take a step back in the run game. And I think that leads me kind of to our first game ball here. And I got to give credit to Cleveland Farrell. By the way, did Cleveland Farrell look like he lost a little bit of weight to you? I felt like he was moving around slightly different. Like, he might have been like, okay, I'm a power player naturally. Let's get a little bit leaner and maybe quicker. And he looked pretty athletic out there from what I remember Cleveland Farrell being. He played a lot of snaps. He played more snaps than the 49ers trade acquisition in Keon White out there. And I thought Keon White might be the one that gets all the snaps and got the starters. Actually, Cleveland Farrell, it was out there more than White, and he was active. He got a sack on a second effort play. And man, I don't know how Jackson Dart held on to that ball, because he was crushed and didn't know that Cleveland Farrell was kind of creeping around behind him on that play. But Cleveland Farrell had a nice little debut in his second stint now with the San Francisco 49ers. Had a sack, a tackle for loss, hit the quarterback. He was very active, and more. I got more. We got the 49ers got more than I think I expected. I'll put it that way, from Cleveland Farrell. So I got to give Cleveland Farrell a game ball in his first game. And we didn't really actually see that much of Keon White, which was a little bit surprising. He was on the first drive, and then, he was off the field again, and he really didn't play all that much for the 49ers. He actually had a win and then fell down on the first drive. I think it was the only third down of the game that the Niners defense got to at the beginning of the game on that first drive, because the New York Giants went down the field against the Niners like it was nothing.
Fairly easy.
Yes.
They marched right down the field and punching that in. As far as Cleveland Farrell goes in his size, he was a guy, not a big guy coming out of college, but he kind of played a big man style. But what was he?
Kind of like Mykel Williams, really.
Yeah, I mean, 265 pounds. Like, he wasn't this, 275, 280-pound guy. And I wonder if early in his career is like, hey, you're not going to be beating guys around the edge. You got to add a little bit of weight to your frame. And then over time, it's like, you know what? Nope. The best version of you is at a lighter weight, because the NFL does that. I remember my short time there, they would tell you, hey, Eric Crocker, we want you at, between 193 and 195 pounds. That's where you'll get the best version of you. And I was probably, 198 pounds at the time. And a lot of what they did was, for every pound you are over, once they start weighing you, it was like $1,000 fine. So you don't want to get fined. All right, let me go underneath that weight. And I wonder if someone got a hold of Cleveland Farrell and was like, we think you are better suited to play at this weight. And that may be what you're seeing today, Peacock.
And I don't know for sure what he was weighing. I just feel like he looked a little bit more spry, a little bit leaner than he did previously in his career with the Raiders and the 49ers. Next, Croc, I want to talk about some more. We got a lot of game balls to get to, I think. The offensive line and Christian McCaffrey, which the entire thing on offense is built around Christian McCaffrey. But I do have one bone to pick about Christian McCaffrey's usage in this football game as well, and a lot more game balls to get to. And I think we have to talk about where this team is and potentially trade deadline. And we'll talk a lot about that, I know, on Tuesday and Wednesday episodes as well here on Locked On 49ers. Next.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it, because it also helps you correct your form in real time, and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
This episode is also brought to you by Supply House. And when the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 parts, plumbing, HVAC, electrical items, the most trusted brands in the business among those 280,000 parts. And their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. You need parts fast for a project? Supply House, next day delivery. Talk about a game changer. And their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. So join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. So you got to give a game ball to Christian McCaffrey, who has now become the leader in NFL history in games with both a rushing and receiving touchdown, as he had in this one. 16 of those such games, passing the great Marshall Faulk, one of the best dual threat running backs of all time. And Christian McCaffrey is certainly in that category with what he's doing. And he's just the entire offense for Kyle Shanahan right now, Croc. And he really has been for a lot of this year with all the injuries out there. And especially in this game, when you get a little bit of an early lead and you're going against a defense that's having trouble stopping you against the run, you don't need to go to the air quite as much. And Christian McCaffrey ended up totaling 28 carries for 106 yards in this game and a touchdown on the ground to go with 5 catches for 67 yards and a touchdown through the air, uncovered on that early touchdown. And just like the Giants went down the field on the 49ers went right down the field against the New York Giants. The only difference is the 49ers defense kind of stiffened up, and the New York Giants defense really did not in this game. And that pass rush that they have didn't become that much of a factor because the 49ers were able to run the ball and stay in front of the sticks and kind of just ran the New York Giants really out of their building was the offensive game plan here. 28 carries for Christian McCaffrey in this one, couple of scores, and, ho-hum, another, 175 total yards. It's been the 150 yards per game pretty much for Christian McCaffrey all year long. It's pretty amazing that he's remained upright, Croc. But when it comes to the bone I have to pick with Kyle Shanahan is that late in the fourth quarter there, right after that Mykel Williams injury, and Christian McCaffrey scored a touchdown, Niners are up 2 scores, they still put Christian McCaffrey back on the football field. And I can't believe that Christian McCaffrey was out there in the final 2 minutes of the game. I can't believe that Trent Williams was out there in the final 2 minutes of the game. George Kittle, but especially Christian McCaffrey. Why are you giving him more carries? He probably shouldn't have been on the field the drive before where he ended up scoring that touchdown, because Brian Robinson's over here averaging 10 yards a carry on his only 5 carries, proving that he is capable of carrying the rock. You would think a big running back. They traded for him for a reason. Let him close out the game in under 2 minutes when you have a 2-score lead. It's the perfect time to sit a guy. If Christian McCaffrey got hurt on the final carry of the game on the MetLife turf when you're up 2 scores, you fire everybody. Like, it's pretty insane to me. Like, I can't believe they left him on the field. It's malpractice, to be honest with you. And I get leaning on Christian McCaffrey, but there's at least, and I understand why even more than normal, you would hand the ball to McCaffrey, throw the ball to McCaffrey more than usual seasons even. But there are times where you can be smart about it. And at least at the end of that game, it was time. And still, Christian McCaffrey's out there. You can't do that. Just be smart. A guy just tore his ACL. What are you doing? You're up 2 scores. The minute to go in the game.
Well, Kyle Shanahan continues to kind of struggle with that, the too many touches or too few touches. And we've seen for a lot of the season with Christian McCaffrey, so many touches. And I'm understandably so. Like, you need him to win games. And damn near, 6-3, are you in the MVP conversation? Like, he's playing extremely well, at least Offensive Player of the Year conversation. But 33 touches, that's a lot. And for a guy who came into the season banged up, like, to me, that's the biggest thing. You give a guy, man, he's young, he's healthy, he's a workhorse. Yeah, okay, give him all the carries, give him all the touches. CMC, every time he gets tackled, I'm like, get up. Or every time he's getting tackled, like, okay, he's gonna be fine. Or every time I see him leave the field and hold up one finger, but if he's out for more than one play, I'm okay. And every touch, you risk that. So I think finding that balance between how many touches is going to take for us to win a football game by Chris McCaffrey and what's not enough, right? I think in this game, like you said, up 2 scores, that was a great opportunity to just be like, all right, hey, Brian Robinson, you're going to get a carry. Am I trying to run the clock out or am I trying to hit a home run? I don't think in that situation you're trying to hit a home run. So let's run some clock. Let's get someone on some carries and just lower the risk of Chris McCaffrey hurting himself and not just like a knee injury or twisting weird or anything like that. For me, it's more so just the wear and tear on the calf, and I feel like it only takes 1 run. So let's just limit that so he can get out of these games healthy.
And I totally understand leaning on Christian McCaffrey again, but you got to be smart when you have the opportunity to get smart. And by the way, Brian Robinson had the biggest run of this game, 18 yards.
Longest rush of the season.
Yeah, a first touchdown of the season. And as mentioned in the chat, I think that's a game ball as well. So game ball to both backs, I think, in this one, in Christian McCaffrey and Brian Robinson. Congrats to Brian Robinson. Had another good return as well. So showing some ability to make some bigger plays for the 49ers is Brian Robinson in some very limited touches here on offense.
Yeah, now Brian Robinson, especially that long kickoff return, looked dynamic, looked athletic, trying to jump over guys. Like, it was cool to see him, especially for a guy that is a bigger back and a little bit more of a bruiser.
If we're giving game balls to both running backs, usually that means something good was happening up front, right, Croc? So against a team that has a really high-profile front seven, Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns and Abdul Carter and Kayvon Thibodeau and that whole group, I thought the offensive line did a really good job. Mac Jones was only pressured on 5 of his 28 dropbacks. And so I'm just going to continue the offensive side of the ball, give a game ball to the entire offensive line. And it's been a much maligned, I think, offensive line for the 49ers most of the year. I saw Spencer Burford back in the lineup playing left guard for the 49ers in this one as well. So getting a little healthier on the offensive line, one of the few places where the team is maybe healthier than they were a few weeks ago or even to start the year. So, offensive line. Game ball in this one. Did a good job on the ground, able to, again, kind of run a team out of their own building because you could play that brand of bully football.
Yeah, and not just in the run game. This is a game where Mac Jones started 14 for 14. And now he did get hit. Initially, it looked like an interception and ended up being a fumble. But, for the most part, just making it to where you can function offensively. You're running the ball very well in the first half. Your quarterback has been very efficient. I'd say that definitely means that the offensive line should get a game ball.
And Mac Jones too, right?
Yeah,
ended up 19 of 24. Mac Jones, couple touchdowns. It was like the toughness of Mac Jones, right? He's buying into the whole thing as well. He's got multiple knee injuries. He's playing through stuff, and he ended up getting sacked twice, I think, in the entire game. And showing some resiliency, making throws when he needs to. They didn't really lean on the passing game, but he did throw a couple of touchdown passes. And I've just been impressed with Mac Jones as far as his ability to be, tough and manage a football game. And it's just been rock solid and really something the 49ers needed this year with the Brock Purdy injury.
Yeah, Mac has definitely been tough. He's been tough all season. And he's done a really good job of just being what the 49ers need in this situation. I mean, you're down bad, hurting a lot of places. Look, it just continue to throw these passes to Christian McCaffrey. They started off the game, just kind of hitches, getting the ball into George Kittle's hands. So it's clear they were like, hey, let's try to get George Kittle something here and get him going early on. But, with Mac, I don't want to be, and you talked about this too, that every week we're changing like what he is. For the most part this season, he's played well. He's played well, especially considering the circumstances.
No doubt. More game balls on my list, Croc, from this 34-24 win for the San Francisco 49ers against the New York Giants. And we got to talk about some of the latest reports about the trade deadline. I'm sure we're going to talk a lot more about it on Monday and Tuesday leading up to that and after the official NFL trade deadline in 2025. But let's get into a little bit of that and some more game balls next. This episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The NBA is back. Obviously, NFL season, World Series, pretty phenomenal World Series. Don't like the end result, but that was a lot of fun as well. But the NBA season now is rolling along, and there's no better place to get in on that action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of a game, maybe you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. And everybody makes a run in the NBA, so it keeps everything exciting every single game, especially when it's your team that's making that late push. You can do live in-game betting in the NFL as well, college football, props, game lines, and so much more. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. All you got to do is head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. We've given a lot of game balls on the offensive side of the ball in this one, Croc. I want to give one more game ball out, and it was one play, and it was a victory kneel down for Martinez, backup quarterback Adrian Martinez. Congratulations. You are now officially an NFL player. You made an appearance. You had your kneel down for the San Francisco 49ers, at least. And so it was fun to see that little moment. It was really a weird moment, too, because we just talked about why is Christian McCaffrey still out there? And you get a first down, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, well, now we can kneel down, and now we can go put someone like Adrian Martinez in the game. And so once it was over, and it was cool to see him wearing number 4. I didn't even know what number he wore. Wearing number 4 out there, Adrian Martinez getting the victory kneel down. So congrats to you. Defense, though, Croc. I was impressed. I don't know if Robert, I didn't see any video from the sideline. Maybe somebody that was there in person, or maybe somebody caught something that I didn't see. He must have chewed out somebody after that first drive, because a different football team showed up on defense after the first drive of the game. And I think that was the biggest difference in the game, because the 49ers kept treating the New York Giants defense like we saw on the first drive. But the 49ers defense really stiffened up after that first drive. And just everyone's kind of playing different, flying around, playing with a lot more urgency. And I don't know if it was something that somebody specifically said, but I have to imagine there were some expletives and some loud voices on the sideline after that first drive, because that's not something that's going to stand, right? And so I'm going to give a game ball to Robert Saleh in this game. Even though they gave up 24 points, still a winning recipe for the 49ers, especially after the way things looked after the first drive, where nobody wanted to play defense on Sunday.
Right. Tatum Bethune, a guy that is stepping up. I mean, he's in a huge role. And now he's had 30 total tackles in the last 2 games. So you want to talk about stepping in, having the next man up mentality, especially when you lose a guy like Fred Warner. And again, I am not saying he's Fred Warner, but within him just getting this time and starting to learn like who he is and how this game goes, he's been very, very, very productive for the 49ers at the linebacker position.
That is all of my game balls. If you have any game balls, hit me with them, Croc. Otherwise, I think we can talk a little bit about some of the reports and what the 49ers might be doing. And if you think that, I know one of the sentiments from fans right now, Croc, is that, okay, you have another injury, that means you really have to do something at the trade deadline. Should make the 49ers more aggressive in making a trade for another defensive lineman. We can talk about some specific names. But another sentiment is that whoever it is probably just going to get hurt anyway. And how do you can't keep plug. There's too many holes than you have fingers to plug in the ship that is the 49ers this year. You just got to play it out, and it doesn't make sense to be throwing away any more draft picks.
Yeah. I think they're in a good spot right now. Looking at Trip Aces, right, and he says 6-3 on the cupcake schedule is to be expected. All you have to do is get healthy. I'd say for the 49ers, I like the part where he added all you have to do is get healthy because, yeah, like there will be help on the way. So, do you need to make any more moves? Maybe there's like a slight move you can make to potentially make the 49ers a little bit better. But as far as what the 49ers are trying to do right now, I think let them just get a little healthier. Make sure the defense kind of get a little healthier, especially on the back end. There's been guys kind of banged up, getting in and out of the lineup. I would say the most impressive thing about the 49ers starting 6-3 is I would have expected 6-3, 6-2 with the 49ers having everybody at their disposal. You told me, hey, after 8 games, because the schedule is not that difficult. All right, cool. Okay, let's build on that. They've been 6-3 with just a disastrous bill of health. It just has been the worst I've ever seen. So, cupcake schedule or not, starting 6-3 with the injuries the 49ers have had to go through, I think they're doing an awesome job with the opportunity to potentially get healthier. I mean, it's just you losing Mykel Williams for the season now. It's just one thing after another. But you hope at some point the injuries, luck or bill of health starts to kind of go their way.
And another good point in the chat here is that with Mykel Williams, you hope that it's not something that lingers into next year as well. So 9 months can put you in a spot where he's going to be ready to start the season next year, get a little camp, a little preseason in maybe, but be ready for week 1, potentially for next year, Mykel Williams. But it does hurt your ability to train in the offseason and really get better at your craft and develop those pass rush moves, which is something we would have hoped to see from Mykel Williams. But the other thing is, and we're seeing that right now from Brandon Ayuk, who tore his ACL right about now last year, right? Wasn't it the first week of November that he tore his ACL and he's still not back? And so obviously his ACL, MCL, and other things, meniscus, I think was involved there. So you hope that's not what the report is too. If like clean ACL tear might be a good prognosis for Mykel Williams. You hope it's not worse than that, which is a possibility.
Right.
That said, the 49ers could be making some moves. There's been reports now that Trey Hendrickson officially is available. Croc, kind of some conflicting reports on Trey Hendrickson. I know the Bengals are weird. Jalen Phillips and Jermaine Johnson are names that are thrown out there as far as names that potentially the 49ers have called about that are potentially available at the trade deadline. And Jalen Phillips is an interesting name to me, Croc, because he's a guy who's been hurt his entire career, right? And you're trying to bring people in to be healthy to replace some of the injured guys you already have. Do you want to bring in a guy that's been that injured, but he would be the perfect player to bring in because he can give you some juice off the edge as a pass rusher. And as far as replacing Mykel Williams, I mean, Keon White's a 285-pound defensive end, right? That can move inside and rush from the interior. Like that's kind of what you're hoping Mykel Williams is too. So I think you could just give him more snaps and that could benefit Mykel Williams. You get Bryce Huff back from his hamstring and he's able to rush the passer from the outside. Cleveland Farrell, if he looks like he did in this game, he can give you a nice little role as a defensive end with Sam Okwuonu. And so if you had someone with some pass rush ability, you might be okay even now with an extra defensive end like Mykel Williams on the shelf.
Yeah, I mean, timely trade too for the new defensive end because golly, if you didn't have him, I mean, at this point you just need depth. And they would be losing a lot if you lost Williams and you didn't make that move.
Would you trade? And we've talked about this a lot, and we're going to talk about it more as the week goes along here, Croc. But would you spend a hefty pick on a rental player? Has your mind changed on that at all? Because before, I think both of us were like, okay, if it costs a lot, he's part of your future plan, at least for next year. If he doesn't cost a lot, then it can be a rental player. Have you changed your mind at all about that? Going for someone like Trey Hendrickson, let's say, if he does cost you a little bit, knowing the 49ers schedule, what it looks like, and knowing that you're going to get some pieces on the offensive side of the ball back, you're going to get potentially Brandon Ayuk and Ricky Pearsall. And then, by the way, kind of burying the lead with one of these reports, according to Kyle Shanahan, Brock Purdy was not that close. It felt like he's limited and he might be practicing. Maybe he's getting close. He's not that close. And the other thing is like, I'm surprised this is not being reported more. This is from Kyle Shanahan about Brock Purdy today. Quote, "It's something that probably won't fully go away all year, regardless of when he comes back."
So will they ever be comfortable just putting him out there?
So he will not be 100%. So
or
Brock Purdy this year, it's going to be turf toe Brock Purdy. You just hope it doesn't get re-aggravated to the point he can't play anymore. And does that change who Brock Purdy is?
Well, I think the other question is Mac Jones and his play. Has that allowed the 49ers to be more patient with Brock Purdy and his recovery?
It definitely has.
Like, yeah, if Mac was just thinking it up, right, gives you zero chance, you have no faith in him going and being a starter, week to week. Are you rushing Brock Purdy out there, even though he's not 100% healthy? I think that the play of Mac Jones has made it to where it's like, you know what? We don't have to rush you back. This guy just completed every pass that he attempted in the first half.
Alex mentions Arden Key. I've talked about Arden Key a lot. Isn't Arden Key also hurt? I think he was inactive this week, wasn't he? Or at least he couldn't practice earlier on in the week. And yeah, that's the tough part is you have to figure out the guys you bring in if they're even healthy too, because at this point in the NFL season, a lot of guys are not healthy. Simmons was also not practicing this week for the Titans. I talked about Jaden Phillips and his injury history. Jermaine Johnson has an injury. Trey Henderson missed games this year as well. So, yeah, I think it's just going to be one of those years for the 49ers. And but I do expect them to be at least aggressive trying to make a move. Will they make a move? I don't know. We'll talk a lot about that on tomorrow's show. Trade deadline will be the main topic, of course, for the next few days until the trade deadline comes and goes. And, of course, we will cover who the 49ers trade for, if they do trade for anybody, or if they trade anybody away, because there's been a little bit more smoke about Juwan Jennings potentially being a player that teams are making calls for. So all that and more coming up tomorrow right here on Locked On 49ers. You're going to want to stay tuned and subscribe everywhere you listen to your podcast.